Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hi guys, welcome to episode 63 of 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, Katie, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Grace.
Hi everyone.
And EJ.
Hey everybody.
Today we will be talking about season 3, episode 15 of Lone Star, titled Down to Clown. Such a funny, sitcom-y episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's just get right to it and start talking about it.
Yeah.
So we start out with the survival
Dumbass of all
dude.
dumbasses.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, this guy, we see this and we're just like, okay, this is not gonna be good.
Yeah.
The moment, one thing, it's survival things, which don't host a channel on this if you can barely survive yourself.
Right.
Just saying. I thought it was going to go something wrong with the tourniquet, because tourniquets are very tricky things, because if you get it too tight, you cut off all circulation, like beyond repair kind of thing. And if you do it too loose, it does nothing. And so I saw a tourniquet and I'm like, oh no, what's he gonna do? And then he brings out the knife.
Oh god, that was crazy.
So
I was like, this isn't gonna end well.
He is trying to stab an alligator lizard.
Well, even before
for no
that,
goddamn reason.
Even before that,
But
so the
whatever,
dude, the dude starts with carving wood and stuff, and he's talking, and then of course he sees the alligator lizard, and then he starts to go after it, which I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
What? It's just a little lizard living its life.
Yeah, and then of course he stabs it, which that's kind of like karma for going after it.
The thing is that he stabs at it when it's on his leg. I'm like, what idiot?
That's like, I feel like that's like he didn't really think about it. Not really.
He freaked
was a little
out.
Crazed.
Yeah, and it was like, oh my god, guys, because okay, so I get it, because some people go a little extreme, like when they're trying to kill like an animal that's attacking them. But honestly, if he'd have just like left the thing alone or ignored it probably would have scurried away.
It's probably one of those things that is more scared of him than he is of it. Kind of
it wasn't doing anything. That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
It was just
existed.
Like he wanted to do it for the video. We all know that. And I've actually never heard.
Like, why are you trying to kill an animal in a video?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never heard of an alligator lizard before. I was like, huh?
Me neither.
Right.
What?
It's so cute.
It was cute.
Yeah,
I mean, I wouldn't take it home, but it was cute.
No, TK.
What? Yeah. But
we'll get there.
We'll get there. Yes, exactly. So yeah, and then of course, it's on his leg. He stabs it. He starts bleeding, obviously, and then. So they show up, Tommy, TK, Nancy, and stuff, and they get to the dude, they put the tourniquet on his leg and stuff, and I love Nancy being like, Cap, what are you doing? You're just gonna piss it off. And Tommy's like, that's the point.
The lizard kind of moved and she's like, what the hell? Yeah, it was kind of funny because they're like it's moving.
They're like, what the hell?
And then he starts
that?
Explaining what it is.
Although Nancy was the only one I feel like that was freaked out. I think Tommy and TK were pretty calm, cool, collected.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And so then after they get the little guy out, they Tommy grabs him and TK puts him in a biohazard bag, and because you don't know what diseases he could have now,
right?
Especially since it's in the wild and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And TK, TK is very fascinated with the way he's looking at him in the bag, and I'm like, oh great. I wasn't even thinking of where this could go in this moment, because usually I'm not really thinking when I first watch it. I'm just watching, trying to enjoy it, not trying to analyze everything, but I'm also TK, why are you looking at him like that?
He was staring at him very intently.
Exactly.
And I will be surprised. I don't think it would typically end in the lizard going into the leg, but it did make an interesting incident. Also, karma.
Yeah.
The whole
That
thing was
too.
just karma.
No, it was. It totally was. Like,
And like, dude, stop wielding that thing around if you can't even fucking use it.
I know.
Go back to your tourniquets.
Right.
yeah, like
Actually, just
seriously,
give up.
just give up.
Yeah, I don't think the
Maybe, like,
survival thing is not for you.
maybe like maybe switch your thing up. You know, maybe not be a survivalist because you're not good at it.
Yeah.
Funny, but yeah.
You almost kill
Alright.
yourself on our survival video.
Mm.
No.
Why his next video is why I quit being a survivalist.
Yeah.
As it should be.
Why
Take
you
note.
quit being a survivalist? Why do you quit being determined to be alive?
Right.
The name just has funny, very funny.
Yeah.
Anyhow.
So then we see Owen in therapy, and
Yes. Okay, I actually really like the therapist.
I did too. I really liked
Yeah,
him.
me too.
I was like, okay. So Owen has to write down all the times that like within the past week that he's experienced rage, and the therapist reads it and he's like, oh wow. And Owen's just like, I don't think you should be saying oh wow or something.
Well, he gives him a journal, and he starts flipping through the pages like there's multiple pages of lists.
Pages from the last week.
Like, wow. Oh,
I
wow.
mean, it's a week.
Yeah.
So I could understand that.
Just the fact that it was, I would say, at least 5 pages.
That's-
And I mean, I get high stress job and everything, probably a lot of things to feel pissed at, but it still feels a little concerning. This is why we're in therapy.
Hey.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, and Owen's, I think at the end of the episode of last week, he said, I know I haven't seen you for a while, or I haven't called recently, so it's been a while. So
yeah.
I'm glad he's
I'm glad
working
he's
on
back
his
with the
stuff.
same.
Yeah, so I love his line though after like his therapist looks through the pages and he's like, oh, when I said I was pissed all the time, I meant to.
Oh,
And
yes.
it's like, and why all of a sudden? But it's like, it's understandable. And so then the therapist says how he wants to try, like he's like, have you ever heard of EMDR? And Owen's like, yeah, I think I listened to them in the 80s. Typical. And he's like, no, not that. It's eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Which
Yeah.
I was very interested when they brought this up because
Yeah.
just before the pandemic started, literally the week before I had to stop seeing my therapist, we agreed to start doing EMDR. And I never got to because we had to move virtual. 2 years, still haven't seen her in person, still haven't done EMDR. But yeah, it was very interesting to hear this because I'm like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah.
I almost did it. I still want to do it. Hopefully one
I
day.
want to do it. Like,
Yeah,
it's cool.
It's good to. I don't know how it happens
I don't
necessarily, but it's good to break down some of the. Your body creates natural barriers to protect yourself in your mind. Like it blocks stuff out, and sometimes to figure out why stuff is happening, you need to break down those barriers, but you can't do it alone because you don't even know what to access at that point. So that it, in the simplest terms, it helps break that down from my understanding. And so I want to do it for that reason. And so hopefully one day, but I always find it interesting when I see an interest, like the topic being brought up on a show or something like that. Cause I'm like, yes, that.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. I love
Well,
you using it here.
Yeah, and I think for Owen, he doesn't really know the source of his rage and his anger. So like this is a good way to kind of help bring some of the subconscious, like wake up some of that subconscious that's keeping some of those emotions at bay.
Right.
And which is, as they start going through it, Owen's starting to have memories of times he was mad, and then that was
like so like as he goes through it, it's like, what do you see? And Owen's like, a spot on my lawn, my tumor, sent in a hospital bed. He's got a tube down his throat. And then the last one is big red nose, and it's like a bloody nose, and he's like, no, like a clown nose. And this dude,
It's
you're
like a clown.
like Owen's just like, oh, we really got off track there, and the therapist is like, no, I think we're making our way. And so he starts asking
Yeah.
like him about like the clown, and
Mhm.
Owen's just like, oh, like he thinks it's random, but like the other associations all had to do with some sort of trauma
Mhm.
and stuff. So this one is like kind of out there, but it's also out there for a reason. And Owen says like he doesn't have trauma of clowns, and then like he names all these like negative representations of clowns.
Right.
Yeah.
And stuff, like, you know, the Joker, stuff like that. And then like the therapist is just like saying that like how he could be like could have a clown phobia. And I was just like thinking how that's ridiculous. And all I gotta say is if anybody's gonna be afraid of a clown, I feel like Owen would be that one.
Yeah.
I really do think that
Yes.
it's very interesting. And like
Yeah.
I kind of had a feeling when like because no phobias of clowns were mentioned in the synopsis, but I
Mhm.
kind of had a feeling that like if they're gonna bring in a clown, somebody in the 126 is gonna be afraid of damn clown.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense.
Like I was
Yeah.
like, that's gotta come up.
Yeah.
And like, yep. It's a win.
It's very interesting.
It is
Uh,
interesting.
phobias aren't rational.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
nothing
that's
really
true.
rational behind them. There are some things you can explain, but phobias aren't very rational. I have a phobia of newspapers.
Mhm.
Explain that one to me. I
Yeah.
can't. So like
That's yeah.
Yeah, I have
I-
heard of that actually.
Chloe phobia.
Mhm.
It's not because I'm afraid of people named Chloe. It's because of newspapers. I don't know why it's called.
Yeah.
Crazy.
In case, yeah. So at this point, I'm very intrigued.
Oh yeah, same. So then we get the call that Dave takes. That's like the fire where the guy is trapped, and
Oh
like
my god, this was so hard.
this was so like sad.
Yeah.
And stuff because like there's like no way out. Nobody's like the guy is literally banging on the wall and nobody's like there. So like everyone must have gotten out of the building except for him.
Right.
And he's obviously trapped because the fire is just like taken over the whole building at this point. So
Mhm.
like Dave leads him to a workout room where he thinks there's a ton of windows in, but it
Mhm.
Because the
happens.
blueprint
Yeah,
says Windows.
Yeah, because the blueprint says so.
And that's
But
all he has.
yeah, and you know there's no windows, and
Mhm.
you know he like
Way
sadly dies in there. And
Mm.
after like the whole thing, like Grace goes over to him and like starts talking to him, and like and so she like invites him over to dinner and stuff because she obviously wants him to like have support and not be alone after that.
Mhm.
And
Be alone after that is like the worst thing.
Right.
oh yeah,
And
exactly.
I think he admits that it's his first time he's ever lost someone on a call.
Oh yeah, and
Oh,
he's
yeah.
been doing that for like I think he mentioned like 12 years, something like that. I can't remember exactly the years, but it was definitely
I
more
think
than
9
10.
years or something like that. Yeah. He's been
Mhm.
doing it for a while, so like the fact that this is the first, but I also wonder like if coming off of night shift had something to do with that.
Possibly, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know how to explain that thought process, but like to me, well, either way, it's very
It's
very sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so then like he doesn't want to go, well, he doesn't want to put them out is the thing.
Right.
So then like
Yeah.
she says, oh, Judd will make his potato salad, and of course he wants to come over then. It was so, and like I gotta say, like everyone's hating on Dave in this episode. Like everyone hates Dave apparently, and I'm like, what do you guys have with Dave? Okay, you guys like Taylor Kelly, but you don't like Dave. I'm sorry, but like Taylor Kelly is like the worst person in the 9-1 universe, and you don't like Dave. Like, yes, Dave, like he kind of pushes buttons, but like not in a bad way, but sort of in a bad way. But like
Right.
he's just like I don't know how to. He's a little dorky. He's a little weird.
He's
but like,
just
who
a-
isn't? He's a
just
nice guy who means
yeah.
well.
Right.
And I think a lot of people also probably don't like the bluntness. And I'm just gonna say this: welcome to British people. They're blunt as fuck.
Yeah.
Maybe see, I'm
That's
like
a generalization, but like any British person I've ever met,
no.
any representation of them, they're blunt as fuck.
Is somebody that
Americans skirt around everything.
Right.
We cannot say what we mean for the life of us.
as someone who had a British great grandmother, I can confirm all of this. Also, like that's like pretty much like my top part of my like heritage and stuff.
Yeah.
So I can confirm that in some sense. But yeah, like get over it.
It's a very well known fact that people that's just their they kind of don't have a filter. They just say they don't hide it. It's kind of how
I don't have a filter most of the time.
Up here it's
Yeah. I mean, again, he's blunt as fuck. He has no filter.
Yeah.
But that's not a
love
bad
that,
thing.
though.
It's just a little bit of a jarring, like it's a culture shock, maybe. Just a little bit.
I think that's what it is. It's because he's probably the only person in the call center that speaks with an accent, and he's from a different country. Most people are from
at least a British accent.
Right. Well, yeah, that's what I mean. So it's just different way he was raised.
Right.
So it's just for them, it's like, he can come off a little brash, but I don't know. Like he just seems like your kooky, like crazy, older brother that's a geek, He's got the little action figures and
I know he's so he's adorable. Like I just love him. Like and like
he's just a dork.
Yeah.
He's a dork
that.
to me, and like in a good way. So I don't get why people don't like him. Because is he my absolute favorite person? No, but that's because a lot of other people are in line.
Right.
And he's a minor character. So there's something wrong with him.
I just think they could have given us worse. Like they could have given us a full-on Claudette. Like and that's what we were afraid of when when he first was introduced, that he would be a Claudette. And he wasn't a Claudette. So yeah.
Again, I remember that synopsis we got about her clashing with coworker, and I said, "Oh no, Claudette."
You were like, "Oh no, please don't tell me we're getting Claudette."
Oh gosh, yeah.
I remember that like it was yesterday.
So moving on, we get Carlos at home. Carlos is working out on the bike, and TK walks in, and hot.
Yes. Poppy looking good.
Oh yes.
So
looking respectfully.
Very good.
So TK comes in asking where his old fish tank is, and I'm like, oh boy. But also in my head, I was thinking this as I was rewatching this today. I was thinking, why does TK have a fish tank?
Right.
I want to know.
Okay, he moved from New York. He moved from New York to Texas. Are you telling me you brought a fish tank from New York to Texas for the hell of it?
Right. And
honestly,
then
it's random.
Yeah, and I love Carlos's response. It's like, are we getting fish?
TK, are we getting fish? And TK's like, nope. And he holds up the lizard that's in a takeout container. And Carlos' face the whole time is asking like, what the heck is that? And so TK says, it's Lou, the alligator lizard, and our new buddy. And this is what I was thinking in this moment. I was like, TK, your version of Buddy and our version of Buddy are two different things.
I mean, he's cute. Like, there's nothing wrong.
It's a cute little lizard, yeah.
But the funny thing, like,
oh, I was just gonna say, I have Carlos the same reaction. If my boyfriend came home with something like that, I would be like, oh, what?
Yeah, like,
get it out of here. Goodbye.
Burn the house down.
Yeah.
See, like, the fish tank part doesn't surprise me because, granted, we don't know what pets he's had before, so I'm expecting he once had some sort of reptile or some fish back in New York. Fish tanks are expensive, and so if he was ever thinking he was going to get another one, it makes sense to me that he brought it with him from New York because they're expensive as hell. So I'm not really surprised at that. But at this point, I was like, hey, why do you want your fish tank?
I don't know. I
What?
just think the whole reason why he has a fish tank is kind of off. Like, you're not gonna bring a fish tank with you if you're traveling that far. You'll just sell it and buy a new one.
Right.
I mean, I would bring one if I had one and I still had it. I would bring
granted,
it
it
with me.
wasn't that big, so honestly, it probably wasn't that expensive. It's not like it was like, over $100. It was like
Yeah.
this little, like, it wasn't tiny, but it was still not like huge.
Right.
It
It was
probably cost
decent
like
sized.
it
Probably
maybe
a
cost
couple
like
hundred.
$30. Like it wasn't
Mhm.
that big. Anyways,
No, fish tanks cost a lot.
yeah. So then Carlos asks, "What is Lou doing in a to-go box?" And TK's response is, it's from lunch. I put him in there after we dug him out from the guy's leg, and Carlos was like, "What guy's leg?" And TK says from the call that day that he was buried in there pretty good, and Carlos is like, "You brought a flesh-eating reptile into our home." And
Yes.
same Carlos, same. TK
Right.
is like, "No, he wasn't eating it. He was just hanging out." And TK's face the whole
That
time,
doesn't
and
make it sound any better.
Carlos is in disgust. I'm with Carlos. I'm team Carlos. Same Carlos.
Right.
And TK says how after they rescued him, they brought him to pathology to make sure he wasn't diseased, which he wasn't. And TK says like, "He's adorable, isn't he?" And Carlos is like, "Maybe to another lizard."
My
I
response
mean-
exactly.
Fair.
He is cute.
Yes.
I mean, I like him, but that's a fair response.
He's cute. Like, I get it. Like, he's cute if he's not in our home, which understandably so.
Right.
Also,
This
not
is-
everyone's fond of like reptiles, so like that's fine.
I feel like Carlos is one of those people, like, he probably has some sort of fear of like spiders, like lizards, those kind of things. I could definitely see that.
Maybe like a snake fear.
Yeah. Honestly, any like, unparticular animal, like, I feel like that
Right.
would be him. And so TK's like, "You're gonna love him. You'll see. Besides, you wanted a pet." And Carlos is like, "Yeah, to pet. I don't want
I
this
love
thing
that line.
anywhere near me."
I love that.
Same Carlos. I know.
That's
Like, he wanted I guarantee he probably wanted a dog or maybe a cat.
Dog or cat.
But I feel like
I see him slightly more as a dog person, but
I do
can
too.
also
I
see
was
them
about to
getting a
say
cat.
that. I was about to be like, not to stereotype, but I really do see Carlos as being a dog person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I know Rafa is, and I'm not just going off of Rafa because obviously you can be like, Rafa does this, and that doesn't mean Carlos will do that, but still.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if we went off of that, like the entire cast is a dog person because like they all have dogs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so TK's like, "That's fine. I'll take care of everything. I'll feed him. I'll set up his basking lap. You won't have to lift a finger." And Carlos is like, "Good, because I'm afraid I'd lose it. Think your fish tank is in the garage." And TK's like, "Excellent. Would you mind getting it?"
This is me not lifting a finger.
Carlos's face, and then being like, and him saying to himself, "And this is me not lifting a finger." And I was like,
But he's so in love with TK. He's gonna do anything TK asks.
"Oh yeah,
Which I'm just
100%.
gonna say, I am TK in this situation simply because I am the person who'd say that and then go have someone do something.
See,
I
this
am
is-
that person.
Yeah. Why am I Carlos? Because people at work will do this to me. They'll be like, "Hey Katie, can you go get this for me? Why can't you do it?"
Right.
I mean,
You have
that's
two-
fair.
You have two hands for a reason.
Like, I get that.
But I
Just
know
in general, like, if I got a pet, I would totally have, like, would you please go get this from the garage? Because
Right.
unless I
mean-
was, like, completely free, that's a different thing. But, like, if I was trying to set him up, then that's another thing.
I
But
mean,
I
say-
just
oh
because.
yes, I love that. So then we see the Grace and Judd dinner with Dave, and he's like hardly enjoying that potato salad, and he says like how it's too hard to enjoy something so lovely when you've killed a father or two. And Grace is just like, that wasn't your fault. And I love Judd like sharing like his experience on it, because he says like that tater salad that you're so fond of, that ain't actually my recipe. The fellow that give it to me, his name was Chef Parkland. He was one of my best friends, and he was a husband and daddy to a little girl. He was one of 11 incredible firefighters we lost at the 126. And like Dave had remembered that. And I mean, I'm sure like everyone remembered that, because I'm sure it was like a huge thing.
He was
and
probably
stuff.
working that night, which
No.
we see.
Yeah.
So was Grace.
Well, Grace was too, because she took the call. But he was
Right.
working that night, so he would have been. I would assume he probably worked that night. But
Yeah, who knows? And like Judd said how like his job was to look over the facility maps and blueprints on the way over, but he never occurred to him to think that a fertilizer factory is basically a bomb waiting to go off. He thought that should have been like the first thing on his mind, and he tortured himself for weeks. But Grace clarifies and says it was months.
Right. Well, and
Yeah.
he was in a coma wasn't he like unconscious in a coma for like a couple of months?
I forget.
I don't know
like
about coma, but he was knocked unconscious.
I forget like the timeline of that. Honestly,
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
can't
think it
remember.
was months though. I thought it was weeks.
I don't think he was. Was he in a coma? I don't remember any.
I don't
time he went
remember.
into a coma.
Yeah, it's.
But he was definitely he was injured. He definitely was in the hospital for.
I mean, he
sure,
was
for
bleeding
sure.
out of his ears. Like I do remember
Yeah,
that
Right.
part.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like Dave asked how like Judd forgave himself, and Judd says he doesn't think he ever did, but his therapist once said something to him to make him feel a little better, and it's a hero ain't in the saves, it's carrying on after loss. And Grace tells Dave that he can carry on too. And then I love Dave talking in British gibberish, and Judd being like, I did not get anything you just said.
Oh my god, yeah.
And then like they offer him a drink, and they're like, oh, do you like bourbon? He's like, I don't like it. He's like, I bloody love it. And I was like, oh. And like Grace is just like, watch out. And it's like, oh yeah. Oh, I can only imagine where this is about to go.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
This takes a
back.
turn.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
always takes a turn. Everything takes a turn. So then we see Owen back at therapy, I guess. So we think, and this could take a turn. So he says how he watched a clown movie the night prior, and it was filthy with clowns, and how he loved it. He wasn't afraid of them. And then
Right.
Owen sees the therapist as a clown, and the therapist says, like, are you sure about that, Sonny boy? And Owen wakes up from the nightmare.
See, the thing is, I didn't realize it was a nightmare until the clown part, because
No,
honestly,
nobody did.
that is something Owen would do. He would go watch a movie filthy with clowns.
He would
just
do it to prove.
that he's not
Yeah,
scared.
he would prove.
Yes, he would. Yeah.
Owen likes to prove
Because
points.
he's like that. Mhm.
Owen and Marsha did the same in that, because she likes to prove points.
Right.
So does he.
Especially as long as they get to gloat that they were right.
Uh-huh.
They're the same on that.
Yeah, they are. And yeah, so it was a nightmare. Yeah, like I don't think, like, if you're saying that you like called this from the get-go, I don't think that's true, because like you always in therapy in this episode, and like
Right.
until you see the clown, you're like, oh, this is where we're going.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I don't see any way that it was callable as a nightmare until the clown part. Like maybe you
Exactly.
got a sense something was a little off, but there were no real big tells,
No.
Yeah.
because that is definitely something Owen would do.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
In fact, I'm surprised he doesn't. Or maybe he did and it was manifesting itself in the nightmare.
I would believe that. So So the next morning, Grace wakes up to Dave still in her house, and he got up with Charlie apparently, and he's cooking breakfast. And Grace is just like, like she sees that he's with Charlie. It's super adorable. And then she's like,
Right.
what are you still doing in my house? And I'm like, that's a total mood. Like, why are you
She's
still
like,
here?
why?
Why? And then like Judd comes through and says like, and it's like apparently he and Dave bonded the night prior because he got too drunk.
I know, it's hilarious.
That was hilarious. I actually really liked their interactions. Like I really liked it. I thought it was super like nice. And yeah, like you just see him like still there, and like he says apparently he has like a whole like clog at his house, so or whatever.
Yeah, so he doesn't have hot water right now, so Judd offered to let him stay there for the night or for while he's getting it fixed.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
like or like and Judd didn't want him driving after that.
Which that's good. That's responsible.
Right.
As you should be.
Exactly.
So you know this isn't gonna go well. So
especially since Grace wasn't consulted about any of this.
no,
and you can tell she's a little peeved about that. And that's nothing wrong with, you know, Judd. Obviously, he was being nice and caring, offering to let them stay. And I feel like Grace may have felt obligated into saying the same thing if she was in the situation. But the problem is that she didn't get to say anything.
I mean, if somebody tells you they have no hot water, what are you gonna do? It'll be like, oh, sorry, sucks. Take cold showers. So
like as long as it wasn't someone I felt uncomfortable around, then absolutely I would consider letting them stay. Especially if it's only for a measly week or whatever. But you can tell she's not sure about this idea.
She's not sure how long it'll go along.
Right.
So then we see him use her hot water and annoy Grace, and this is when you're like, okay, this is not gonna go well. This is not gonna end well.
He's treating it like it's his home.
Yeah.
Which is a big no-no when you're staying at somebody's.
Oh my God,
unless
that's my
you
pet
are
peeve.
very
people like
unless you have been over so many, like you're almost family with the person.
Right.
Like you have been over there multiple times, you know how the place works, you know your place in the place, a lot of things. So he's acting like it's his home and it's not. And so I completely get why Grace is peeved.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, that is no. So then we get Owen actually in therapy. Actually back in therapy, like actually going to a therapist again, and Owen is furious because like he's like, I know, like he left the office and he's like, now I have this clown thing, and I have more problems than when I started coming back here or something like that.
Right.
And therapy can feel like that sometimes because you're
Yeah.
digging up stuff from your past that you may not know about at all, like in his case. And so you're gonna be like, I feel more traumatized when I came in. No, you're just digging up what was already there and that you blocked out.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't actually come out more traumatized unless your therapist is terrible.
Yeah, but then the therapist says how like they may have kept something in his subconscious, and it went just like, oh, we'll put the cap back on.
Right.
Which granted, like, that's relatable.
That is relatable.
Sometimes I want to do that when I uncap some stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, like it's like Owen, it doesn't necessarily work like that. But okay.
No, it doesn't at all.
So more with clowns. We get the clown birthday party. The clown.
This was such a mess.
It was a mess. The clown falls through the playset, which, you know, the second he starts dancing, you know, like, and it's so wobbly, you know, something bad's about to happen.
Right, I'm like, oops. Well,
at first you're waiting, like, okay, so how's the accident gonna happen?
How's this gonna go wrong?
At first we see, you know, he's doing really good, you know, as the clown, but he knows all these things about the birthday boy. And
yeah, that was a little bit of
at first I was like, okay. At first I was like, okay, the parent told them. And then I realized the parent was confused. And I'm like, that's weird.
I didn't think it was weird at first because like giraffes, elephants, like those are all like kids' favorite animals, and he did do a giraffe. But like
Sure.
those are pretty like generic favorite animals. It was a little strange, and as they
Right.
talked about it, how it was strange, I thought it was I was like, okay, maybe this is weird, but I was also like, oh, like that's pretty standard. Like I guess it's not like too out there. But yeah, the
Yeah.
clown does fall through the playset, and they get there, and I was just standing there freezing. I was so scared, and he doesn't want to admit
Oh,
it, and he doesn't say anything, but like he is, and so Judge just like, oh, do you want me to like go check this out? And I was like, yeah, and so he does. So Judd's basically in charge of this whole thing, and Owen doesn't want to go closer. And Tommy, the second Owen starts freezing when they first get there, Tommy is like looking at Owen like, what? No, oh
Like,
God,
what is going on?
what is going on? Like Tommy is like in like full like I don't even know what mode, but like in a full mode, and Tommy is like figuring this all out, and Owen freezes when
I
she's
feel like
trying
she
to
was
talk to him.
she was like a cross between the captain mode and the mom mode. Just kind of
Yeah,
like, all
Right.
right, what's the problem?
yeah, exactly. And Tommy says like how he's not okay, and she thinks that he's having a panic attack, and she wants to take his blood pressure, of course. And I'm like, mm-hmm. And she asks him if he's ever been diagnosed with a clown phobia, and Owen says, not officially.
Not officially.
Right.
And then he asks her not to make a thing out of this because understandably she would make a thing out of this, you know it.
Mm,
Mhm.
just out of concern, but like,
Right.
yeah, sometimes you don't need a thing made out of something.
Especially in this type of situation. And TK even like when Tommy goes up there, TK even looks back and sees his dad, and it's like, oh, what's going on?
It's like,
Yeah.
everything okay?
Everything fine? Yeah, your dad just wants to watch from back there.
Right. Because that's what
And he like,
Captain
doesn't he
always
give like a
does.
weird thumbs up at some point?
Judd looks back at Owen because he's probably thinking, what the hell? And
Right.
Owen just gives him a thumbs up, and Judd gives him a thumbs up back.
Like, oh my
Like, that
god, my
was so
captain's
awkward.
batshit crazy.
It was
Yeah,
so
really.
funny. Like I was just like, oh my god. And like they get to like the clown, and like then they figure out like that this is the boy's dad because he has to give his full name because he's like, oh, whatever the clown's name was, I forget what it was.
Flippy the clown. I'm pretty sure that's his name.
I don't think that was it, but okay.
I thought it was Flippy. I don't know.
I don't remember what it was, but I do know that was it.
Either way, yeah,
was
he
like-
couldn't go off of.
It was like Mr. Something. That's all I remember. And
Right.
they're like, unless that's under driver's license, then that's not gonna
Right.
And he just
Tommy's
kind of
saying
sags
that.
like,
Oh.
and it was the boy's dad who couldn't see him on his birthday because the parents were split up, and so the whole prospect of 2 birthdays,
Yeah, I
like,
love. Yeah.
that probably made the kids' day though.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly.
Until Dad got injured.
Yeah.
But like finding out that his dad did come, that's
I think that made, yeah, honestly.
that made up for it. Honestly, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like they're like getting ready to transport him, and the kid looks at Tiki and says, "Can I go with him?" And Tiki is just like, "No, that's not up to me, little man." And I was like, "Oh, Tiki with kids."
Yeah.
Oh my god, yes.
Well, we already know he's good with kids.
Oh yeah,
That goes without
but we don't
saying.
see enough of it.
Right.
We don't see enough of it.
Yeah, exactly. And like they do end up going with him, and I'm like, "Oh, that's sweet."
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. So then we get Tarlos and TK's groceries. Oh, dude.
Oh man,
So-
this
Oh
was
my
a cute
God.
one.
Yeah. So Carlos is like he's just sitting there reading a magazine, and then he looks behind him when he hears the door open, and TK's carrying a bag, and Carlos is just like, "What's that?" And TK's like, "Eggs for breakfast tomorrow. I also got some peppers, some onion, and mealworms." Ew. Okay, people were like, "Why did TK buy one onion? Who cares? Because he
Who
doesn't want
fucking
to rot.
cares?
Yeah, exactly. Same reason why I only buy one onion at a time.
Because you like, who uses a
If you
full
don't
onion?
use it enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, I never
exactly.
use a full onion. It only ever usually calls for half or like 2 servings.
Yeah.
I
So
only cook for myself.
yeah.
So
So then when after Carlos hears mealworms, he's like, oh, please do not put
And
it
that-
next to the coffee bean.
And that face Carlos makes would be like totally me.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Just the thought of it makes me grossed out.
Can I just say I love that Carlos is wearing glasses very frequently recently?
Yeah.
they're giving us what we want.
It just makes it more like natural, I think, because
Mhm.
like, you know, if you're reading, if you like have the type
If we've already
prescription,
established that he reads wearing glasses, it'd be weird to not have him do it.
Yeah.
All that is to say, they're giving us what we want.
yeah, it makes
Right.
it natural. It makes it like
Yeah.
realistic. Like if you're
Mhm.
reading, you're gonna possibly have reading glasses on, especially since yeah, we have seen that. So I love it. And then so TK goes to check the tank and he doesn't see him in there. And then he looks at the top, sees that it's open. And when I first saw this, I lost it. I actually have a reaction of it out there. I literally died. I was literally
This was
cracking up.
so hilarious.
I was like,
oh no.
oh my god, Carlos is gonna freak. Carlos is gonna control freak. Carlos, I believe is something I said, is gonna like literally freak out. Like Carlos is gonna want to burn the house.
See, at first when I saw this, I was like, did he do something? Not in that sense, but like, did he suddenly bond with the lizard or some shit?
Right. Well, yeah. And then the whole time,
I
like
was-
Carlos is like still sitting on the couch. He's talking to TK about this TV show that's like new TV show. Do you want to watch it tonight? Do you have any plans? And TK's like, and like as this whole thing's going, as TK's realizing, like TK's facial expressions when he realized that the tank was cracked over, like the lid was off.
yeah,
It's hilarious.
So TK is immediately trying to distract Carlos, and Carlos was asking TK like,
Yeah.
"Oh, did you know that they have a new season of Grand Designs?" And TK's like, "No, I didn't." And Carlos says that they can watch it tonight unless he's busy. Otherwise, he'll just stick to the magazines. Otherwise, and TK says, "No, I'm good. I'm easy. I'm free. Yeah, I'm free." And Carlos is like,
He was
"Cool."
so-
He was not
so bad at being
he's not
nonchalant.
calm. Well, he's trying to be calm, but like he's just like freaking out on the inside.
Mhm.
Like, get the lizard before my boyfriend noticed.
So
Right.
yeah. So TK sees Lou on the couch and legit an inch
Right
away from Carlos.
next.
Like for like yeah, like an inch away from him, and he's like, hey babe, why don't we do that now? And Carlos is like, do what now? And TK's like, the TV thing. And Carlos like looks behind him where the groceries are sitting on the counter, and he's like, but you haven't finished putting the groceries away. And TK starts kissing Carlos, trying to distract him, saying how Carlos looks good today, which Ronan said that he proudly improvised that line.
He improved that. I love that.
See, he was also trying to reach the lizard.
Right, because the
without-
lizard was sitting on the couch back behind Carlos and he hadn't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So TK is like kissing him, trying to reach behind him to get Lou. And Carlos is just like, you got even the mealworms? And TK's like, yeah. And then TK doesn't get Lou, and then TK sees Lou Carlos's shoulder, and he jumps back, making Carlos look down, and jumps up and starts yelling at Carlos, like flung Lou across the room, might I add. And Carlos is just like, what? Oh my god, freaking out. And TK, he's like, TK, the thing was on me, and you didn't say anything. And he's like, I'm sorry, I didn't want to scare you. And Carlos is just like, how did it get out? And he's like, I don't know, it crawled.
Do not say it crawled.
Do not say it crawled. TK, where is it? And TK's like, I don't know, these things are fast. And Carlos is just like, it could be anywhere. And Carlos starts freaking out.
Yeah, you can totally
Same.
see the panic in his face. It's like, I love this. This was hilarious. I was
TK's
like,
face. TK's face is like, I fucked up. Like it's
yes,
like,
he's trying to like look around on the floor, like where'd it go?
yeah. I think
Note to
Loans.
everyone: don't just fling it across the room.
I mean,
Hey, that's
I
not
would
very
do the
nice to
same
the lizard.
thing.
Also, you're not going to know where it lands.
That's a natural like
Yeah.
reaction.
Oh, it's a natural response. Just don't do it.
It's kind of
Mhm.
hard not to do it. That's so natural. I would do the same thing in a heartbeat.
Oh
But,
yeah.
I believe Lone Star tweeted something like, "In this moment, TK knew he fucked up." And I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, pretty much.
Oops.
Oops. Yeah, this is why you don't bring a lizard home to your boyfriend, who's
Your
a
control
control freak. I love how we said that at the same time.
Control freak part. That's the key.
And I mean, yeah, yeah, no, nope. Yeah, I love all the Tarlos scenes. It was funny because I was thinking before this episode aired, like, are we gonna get Tarlos this episode? And then wrote it and was like, oh, the Tarlos scenes today, and I was like, oh, okay. I did not know what we were gonna get, but I was like, I'm ready for it, whatever it is.
Right.
Let me get Tommy and Grace. Love that. Tommy is like asking like how long Dave is planning on staying with them, and Grace says how she doesn't know, but he has some mystery clock, and Tommy's like, oh yeah, like once we had a mystery clock and it took 6 months, and Grace is like, 6 months? Yeah, no. Basically.
No, absolutely
Like,
not.
no, absolutely not, which understandably so. I don't think I would take 6 months of that. I couldn't take 6 days of that. So she's like, oh yeah, Dave is nice and he's good with the baby, and they're saving on gas because they carpool. And Tommy is like pointing out how much time they spend together. Like, you wake up and he's there, you drive to work together, you're sitting at like desks near each other all day.
Right.
Then you
It's true,
drive
you don't get a
home,
break.
and then you don't get a break.
Even
There's-
Judd and Grace get breaks from each other.
There's
Right.
like, it's like when friends,
And they're married.
Yeah, it's like when friends, like when you're like with friends like 24/7, you never get a break,
Mhm.
and it's like sometimes you're just like, can you leave now? Bye, please.
Can you leave now? Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I've been through that. Where I'm just
Right.
like, why are you still here? Love you, but please leave.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, like, and then Grace says how she like let him take the car home because he apparently sings show tunes, coming and going from work, and she just couldn't take it. And I had the thought like, okay, so she let him take her car, but she wouldn't even let Billy drive while she was literally in labor.
Right. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that.
Well,
That's good.
she doesn't have an outright reason to be mad at Dave at this point. It was different with Billy.
It's totally a different situation, but I'm also like,
It is funny.
it is funny
It's a
to
good
think
point.
about, because like I always, yeah, she was pissed at Billy for like a lot of different reasons, and understandably so, but also like I'm also like saw it as more like I wouldn't let anybody drive my car that like wasn't family, because I kind of am like that control freak, so I'm like, please do not.
Yeah, family or most trusted friend. Like
And I don't,
that's
yeah, I'm
it.
kind of a control freak when it comes to that. Like, if my brother has to drive my car, I'm like, can you please just ask me first?
My
Yeah.
thing is, I'm the only one
You
who's
don't
here
ever
to drive
drink
my
stuff.
car, so I don't let anybody drive my vehicle.
I wouldn't either. I like, no,
No,
but
like
yeah,
there's just so much that could go wrong.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah. And then like Grace is like, well, you and Julius, you like put all that bad blood aside. Like, and Tommy says how like he like cleans and like he helps the girls with lawn division. And I remember one of my mutuals like saying, man, he does all that. Tommy, if you won't take him, I will.
Right.
I thought that was
I
pretty
mean, you
funny.
know what? Fair enough.
I thought it was funny. Like, that totally isn't like I have read. They're not gonna put them together. Like, people were thinking that, and like,
Mhm.
understandably so. But like, that's not happening. It's just funny when I heard that. I was like, "Yep, that's great." And so like Tommy says like, and like Grace is just like, like she's just trying to justify it like in God's way. And
Mhm.
Tommy tells her that like she's not Jesus and she needs to relax a little bit.
It's
And I
true.
mean, it is true. You're not God. You're not
Our
Jesus.
name may be Grace, but that doesn't mean we're any holier than thou other people. We're just kind of doomed with hearing the name in church all the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
and wondering and thinking someone's calling our name, but really they're just talking about it.
Right.
You really are haunted all the time.
And constantly
Anyway.
hearing jokes about the song Amazing Grace,
Mhm.
which I will not say that I hate, but definitely have heard hundreds of times.
I'm sure.
Well, yeah.
I'm
I
sure.
mean, with my first name being Aaron, every time they talk about Aaron in the Bible, what? Who's this talking to me?
See, everyone just has my name, so
True.
You answered everyone.
it's like when at work when they say like some Katie to like wherever, and I don't even
Mhm.
flinch at this point because I know it's not for me.
Right.
Yeah, and then like Judge shows up and she's just like, wow, that was fast. And you could tell she's like, tipsy. And she just like, oh, I need 10 minutes. But yeah, when she sees that Charlie's not there and that she's with Dave, yet alone, Dave or
With
Judge,
Uncle Dave.
and Judge calls him Uncle Dave. She
That's a
spouts
little
up
friendly.
so fast.
That's a little too
I
friendly
kind of
at this
like
point.
Yeah, see, people do that with friends. They'll call like friends, like they'll be like, friends will call like will like have their kids call their friends like Aunt Katie or Aunt whatever. And I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
like, that's
I
weird.
will absolutely have the same thing with my own friends. Just saying, like if they are really close at this point, they don't have enough of a relationship to do that.
Right.
Yeah, I still think it's a little like
I get what you're saying. Like, even if it is something I would do, like I get what you mean.
yeah, I don't know. It's not like too strange, but it's also like I don't know. So yeah, like Grace, when she finds out how she finishes her wine so fast, she spouts out so fast knowing that Charlie's with him. And she's just like, yeah, let's get home. And then when they get home, Dave and apparently already put down Charlie and like then he's like saying how she had her first steps and he had a video of it. And of course the camera wasn't pointing at her. But then again, the thing I have to say about that is when a milestone happens, you don't tell the parents about it when they weren't there.
Right.
You pretend it didn't happen and let them have that moment because you're not the parent, you're just the coworker, Dave.
Yep. So
like,
true.
It's just
Yeah.
and a lot of people have commented on that saying like he shouldn't have said that this happened. He should have just let them see that and have that moment.
And think it was the first. Because a lot of parents have those missed first because they work. And so just let them think that was the first.
Exactly.
Like I'm not saying I wouldn't accidentally slip up and go, oh my god, if I was watching Split's Kid. I'm not saying I wouldn't do that without thinking it through. Like when you think about it, yes, the parents should have that.
Yeah. Like, maybe and not say anything like after the, be like, yeah, not the best mood. So then Judd and Grace like that night are in bed and Judd's just like, he's gotta go, don't he? And Grace is like, yeah, I think it's time. And Judd's just like, so what are you gonna tell him? And her face is like, why me? And I mean same.
Right.
Like, that's like, why do I have to
She may have invited him over, but he invited him to stay.
I think honestly he was a little scared to say anything.
Oh, we know how awkward he is talking about feelings and shit. Like
yeah, exactly my point.
Right.
So wait, I totally blanked out. Did we talk about the video angle of it?
Oh gosh, the fact that he starts to
so he
flips around.
Films the video, but he flips it just as they take it, and so we just see his big face instead.
Yeah, I kind of like
And by big, I mean that it was held really close to his head, so it's
Right.
just taking up the entire.
Because yeah,
And
he
I'm
didn't
just-
realize he was recording himself and not the baby.
And
yeah,
he didn't watch
I
it back
kind of
through.
mentioned that in more words than less.
And that's just like,
Awkward.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, why? I don't know. Maybe he didn't review it, but I'm also like, why?
I would review it. So like maybe not everybody, but I feel like anyone would want to watch that over again. So
The worst part would have been if he just posted that on social media and like, you know, oh yeah, look who just started walking. Grace would have killed him.
that would have been
Yo,
crossing
yes.
boundaries because like you don't post anybody's kid without their permission on social media. You can actually like could literally go to technically you could go to like you could get like in trouble for that.
You could get in trouble.
I was gonna be like you could go to jail, but I was like that's a little much.
That yeah, I don't know what technically that'd fall under, but it definitely would be invasive and not okay. And so he didn't do it, and that's good. But
Well,
like some
yeah.
people would,
Yeah.
and that's the issue. Not
Yeah,
everything
definitely.
needs to go on social media, and it doesn't when it's not your life.
When it's not your kid, like you don't get the say like of posting somebody else's kid, like especially publicly
Yeah.
and stuff. Like I know there are laws in place for that. I know especially like for YouTube and stuff like that. Like when
Mhm.
you deliberately post somebody else's kid.
That's the thing, you know, I never post pictures of kids unless I have permission from their parents, you know, and that's right. That's the right most people should do. I was just bringing it up because like she would have been even more pissed if she'd have like everybody else got to see their first steps besides her.
Yeah. So then we get Owen in therapy. And he apologizes, saying, like, yeah, I guess I'm afraid of clowns. And he's just like, saying how like he had a like it's like, oh, what happened? And it's like, oh, I saw a clown. And he says like how like he thinks he's afraid of them because of something his father said to him, which is what the therapist called him in his dream, which is Sonny Boy. And I'm just like, okay, that's interesting and stuff. And like his father is like the only one that has ever called him this, and the therapist says, "Oh, you've never mentioned him. Like, oh, can you like tell me about him?" And Owen's just like, oh, I not much. Like, haven't seen the man since I was 12. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Didn't expect that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I have always been curious about like Owen's family, like parents, that kind of stuff, like his like that, because I was always been like, I wonder if they would ever go there and show like parents, like, you know.
In a way, it's weird because it never seemed like he had parents.
I thought the same thing. Like I was like, I thought
and like of course he didn't just spring out of the ground.
I thought they
but
were
like
dead.
it never felt like he had parents.
I always thought they were dead because they were never mentioned, and you know that was like
and TK's never mentioned a parent on Owen's side.
No.
Yeah.
No, he hasn't mentioned any grandparents. Is the thing. Like
I don't think he has. No.
So like yeah, and then like the therapist asked him if he's comfortable saying what happened when he was 12, and Owen says how his dad abandoned the family. And like parts of that make a lot of sense because we know when he was 15 he moved from California to New York.
True.
So like when he said that, I was like, okay, that makes a little bit of sense. And he asked Owen how he felt when his family separated. Owen said shame, terror, and Owen says like how he wasn't aware of it and he hasn't talked to anybody about it until like this moment. The therapist asks like how it feels to finally say it out loud, and Owen says how it feels like some relief but not as much as it should be or and stuff, or as not much as he would like. And like saying it out loud doesn't change the fact that it happened or the fact that he doesn't have a relationship with him to this day. And the therapist says, well, maybe I'm not the person you say that aloud to. And it's like, that's true. Very true.
Sure. I liked it because this is a real representation of what therapy is like. It's hard. It deals with some hard topics, but it truly like this is what it's like. And those are also emotions to have, you know, shame, fear, rage, all normal emotions to have when your family breaks up.
Right.
I had those.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
so
yeah.
like on some parts of this, I'm like, damn, you're like speaking my story here.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Though sometimes, depending on your family situation, you might also feel relief, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Right.
And I know I had some of that too. And people would make you feel ashamed for that, but don't be ashamed. If you feel
Exactly.
that, then that means something was wrong in your family that this means is better
Yeah.
for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Anyway, pep talk over. Let's go.
Yeah. So then we get Grace leaving work, and so she has to have a conversation with Dave, and she's like, Lord, forgive me for what I'm about to
Right.
do, and please let Dave take this news well. And so Grace says like, oh, Dave, we need to talk, and Dave agrees, and Dave starts talking, and through all this he says how like he knows that they were coming from a good place and how it was wonderful, like it was a wonderful experience, but feels smothering. Grace is like, smothering, and Dave is like, well, maybe
You
that's
feel
not the
smothered?
right word. Maybe that's not the
Right.
right word, maybe like suffocating. And she's like, that's the same thing. And Dave just said how like he knows what happened isn't his fault, because the next day he found out, which Grace had asked, like, when did you find that out? About
Right.
the blueprints, because the blueprints apparently weren't updated and stuff. So he finds that out the next day, but he only stayed because
Yeah.
it seemed like Grace and Judd were enjoying having a project. And then he's like, no hard feelings, and she's like, no hard feelings, and he's just like, that's why everyone calls you Amazing Grace. And I'm like, yeah.
Yep. We'll go with it.
Well, I mean, sure.
The thing is that that's so not what happened. Is
Right.
that like obviously he must have seen that from his perspective, but I'm like,
Well, it's an outsider's perspective, so that is probably
Right.
how he saw it, because they weren't giving off any feelings that they wanted him to leave. They were just like, oh yeah,
they
well,
were
no
being
problem.
charitable.
And I
Yeah.
mean, that's a tough situation to be in. Like, it's
It is.
hard. Like,
Yeah.
Well, and I think even Dave made a comment. He's like, I moved across the Atlantic and halfway through the US to get away from his family. So the family aspect of it was starting to feel like smothering, which is understandable. Some people can't handle that.
I understand that. Sometimes I feel smothered in my family. I'm like, can you guys leave me alone? Like, I'm
Yeah.
like a few minutes, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to my room now. See ya in a couple hours.
Yep.
See you tomorrow. Yeah. And like Grace is just relieved because she didn't have to like break the bad news. He pretty much said everything she was probably feeling,
Yeah.
which you love when that happens, when you don't have to do the talking, because
Right.
oh yeah, I've been there.
Yeah.
It may not have been accurate to her, but she didn't have to break the news.
Mhm.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Then TK comes home. Carlos is sitting in the chair by the tank, laying back. And then Carlos looks back when he hear, like, shortly after the door, he knows TK's standing there. It's like, oh hey. And TK looks panicked because he's looking at the messy loft, and he's like, were we robbed?
Oh my god.
And Carlos is just like, yeah, Carlos is like, no, I was looking for Lou. DK's like, oh. And Carlos is like, I got him. And DK's like, you got him? Is he? And Carlos is like, what? No, I didn't kill him. He's right in there. And it's just like, he may not have killed him, but he probably wanted to.
Right.
Just being honest.
He probably didn't want to sleep on the couch.
Yeah. So then TK, he goes to the tank and he's like, oh, Lulu. And then Carlos is like, I found him by the desk lab. I guess he was basking. And TK's just like, oh my god, babe, but I thought you hated him. And Carlos is just like, I do, but I love you, and I love how big your heart is for bringing in strays. And TK's just like, I love you too. We should bring him to the green belt and set him free, right? And Carlos is like, I'm begging you. And it's Like, he's like, okay. And Carlos just falls onto his shoulder and it's just like, yeah. And I'm like, I feel Carlos so much because if I was in this situation, I'd be freaking out. I'd probably be looking for the thing and being like, I just want to kill you at this point because I am just like over it. Like, please, like, I won't actually kill you, but I want to because like, what the heck? You're in my house, like, just roaming around.
Right.
Yeah, this is the most TK thing ever. It was like rodents tweeting something like, "Oh, just Carlos having to deal with TK's shenanigans," and I'm like, yeah, every episode, every day of their life, always dealing with TK's stuff.
Right. I think it was cute though, because we kind of got to see a different side of the two of them because they've been going through a lot. So to just finally see some like lightheartedness in the way. And I was thinking about like how TK found Carlos sitting in the loft like that, staring at the cage. I was like, yeah, Carlos is probably staring at the cage to make sure he didn't get back out.
Making sure the yeah, like, yeah, I would be doing the same thing. Like, you better stay in there, stay in the cage, please. Even though it's a tank, but same thing. So then we end off on Owen making the call, and a woman answers, and Owen's just like, "Oh, I'm trying to reach Walter Strand," and the woman's like, "Oh, he's not available," and asks if there's a message she can give him, and Owen just like freezes, but that's all we're gonna get. So then she asks again, and then the episode ends, and it's just like, of course, like it ends like this, but like, of course, in a good way, because I wanted it to end like this, and I like how it ended because it's like leading to the next episode perfectly. And like, if it had ended any differently, there would be no point in the next episode.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the upcoming. Remember.
That's the whole point, because some people are like, well, why? And I'm like, do you not know how storytelling works? Like, that's the whole point, to not give it away. Yeah, I really like this episode. Like, it was, I don't know, it was like perfect, like comedic relief. It was like, I felt like a full-on Carlos sitcom.
Wasn't TK or wasn't Ronan teasing about that too?
Not before the episode, but during. Yeah, I think like, I don't think he was the first one to say it. I think Lone Star might have said it first, but yeah, pretty much he said, this is your new sitcom, Tarlos, and I'm like, okay, can we make a full show out of this? Because I would really watch the heck out of this. Like, just a different shenanigan every week. I would like that. So, fan thoughts.
Yes. What are the thoughts? What are the TJ thoughts?
What are the TJ thoughts? Well, TJ loved this episode. He said, like, I absolutely love the Tarlo scenes, like, new favorite Tarlo scenes. And I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
they
they were cute.
overall it was a great episode. Yes, it was. Other ones, Tarlos warmed my heart. It was such a comedic relief from all the angst they've been going through. Owen's storyline was okay. I hope it comes to a head next week. It doesn't get dragged out. Grace and Dave's storyline was hilarious. I don't think I could have lost as long as Grace. Dave might have been gone after the second day of no hot water. Yeah, I agree with that. Like, I liked the Owen stuff. I thought like they could have done anything else, and I just think what they did do, like, I feel like it has more potential.
Well, I think Owen, this is something that's been needed for a while, so I'm glad we are seeing it.
Yes. Last one says, I think this is the last one. I did not refresh the page yet. Is the last one. 10 out of 10 episode. I love the Tarlos lizard side story. Very domestic, which I love. Carlos having a fear or just a plain dislike for lizards is cute. Exactly. Maybe they'll get a more permanent pet in the future. I love seeing Grace and Judd's personalities switch during the time of Dave staying with them. Pro tip, if you're watching someone's baby and said baby does a huge milestone, don't tell the parents, especially if they haven't mentioned it. My poor godparents learned the hard way. I had said my first word while they were babysitting me. They had mentioned this to my parents, more like, why didn't you tell us she was talking? And my mom started crying. I thought of that story during the scene of Dave talking about Charlie's first steps. Owen's storyline was great. It really felt like the season has been leading up into this. My son in a hospital bed, breathing tube down his throat. The line hurts my heart. I would like a revisit to those episodes. How everyone with almost losing TK saw someone else say this. I would love it if the deleted scene from episode 4 of Owen and TK's hospital room is included as a flashback in 316. It's probably not going to happen. Just saying. I would also be happy if they just dropped that scene by deleted scene itself. As a deleted scene itself, that's probably also not going to happen. Not to be the bearer of bad news. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it was a good episode. I loved it. It was hilarious. You know, somebody told me they thought it was kind of a filler episode, and I'm like,
I disagree strongly.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
this was a prequel episode. It was leading up to a main event.
That's a good description of it.
Yeah, I can think of several other episodes that felt like fillers, and this was definitely not a filler episode because a lot pretty much happened. There's a lot of lead up, mostly for Owen, but it also gave like different perspectives to see where Tarlos is at, especially since we didn't get them in the prior episode and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the promo, I don't
know if I've actually watched the promo, and that's unusual because usually I watch that.
I know.
The episode.
Welcome to the dark side.
You and I were always the ones to watch the promo. Well, so the promo, Owen says like, my father, I haven't spoke to him in years, and we see his dad, and then we see the Ryder family ranch. Judd says how nothing quite traumatizes like family, and then we see Wyatt, and Judd, and they're like horseback riding, and then we see a snake, and then Judd falls off the horse. I just thinking about this in my brain of how is this gonna go down? Judd says like nothing heals like family either, and then Owen puts his hand on like his dad's or whatever. It looks like his dad is like in like some type of like nursing home, assisted living, something like that from what we've seen. And then when Judd falls after like that whole thing, Wyatt says like, Dad, and I need you to stay with me, and Judd like yells in pain. And then like we know like in the promo, which a lot of people got confused with this, like it's like 2 episodes left, and it's like 2 episodes after 16 because we know there's gonna be 18 episodes, but that still confused a lot of people.
Yeah, I had a couple of people ask me about that. I'm like, no, it's this one and 2 more.
Yeah, no, everyone is asking me about it, and I was just like, so like 16, 17, 18. So like think after 16, you know, you have 17, 18 left.
Yeah, like I get if it was happening in the prospect of just during episode 15, people's minds were still on 15, so they thought 2 episodes, the heck. So all they really need to do is just think, think an episode ahead,
right?
And that's 2 episodes.
That's mostly probably what it was, but it was just funny.
Because I think if I had seen that, mine might have been on a trip too, just being like, "Excuse me, what?" But then it's like, "Oh wait, add an episode."
Yeah, I'm really excited for the episode. I mean, when the synopsis came out, we were like pretty excited about it because it was like, oh, Owen's going to like see his dad. That we have no idea who he is or what this is about, and the other weird things about this is I love people saying, oh God, I hope Owen doesn't show up at 911. Guys, that's the stupidest thing ever.
Not saying it's completely implausible because we know how these shows work, but at the same time, no.
It's not happening. I can confirm
that.
I can confirm that with 100% no doubt because the next episode of 911 isn't even... It hasn't even, they would have mentioned it if it was actually happening. And just because Owen's going to LA doesn't mean he is literally gonna go over and pop in and be like, hey, what's up? That's not happening. But we do know in the next episode, Judd's dad's back, Stuart's back.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. If I'm going to be honest, I'm a little disappointed about the whole nursing home thing with Owen's dad. Like, if that is what's happening, because that honestly, it just feels so cliche. Like we've seen
Right.
this storyline happen a million times. Reconcile, deathbed kind of
Yeah.
deal. And not saying it's not valid. It just has happened a lot of times. So
I don't
I'm
necessarily
hoping
think
this
that's
is
on
not-
his deathbed, but
I know, but like that
Yeah.
general storyline, like something's wrong health wise, or something's going downwards health wise. That I should phrase it more like that, not necessarily.
Yeah, that's true. And I think I saw a couple of articles. I guess Chad Lowe, who usually directs, and is also Rob-Lowe's brother,
Yeah,
is
that
going
was
to
my
be
next
playing his
point.
brother. So yeah. So I did hear that. I guess I didn't
Yeah.
see the Told of
So-
Grace this week and didn't watch the promo.
Welcome to
it
the
wasn't
next
in the
time.
promo. It wasn't.
Oh,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
only in articles. It wasn't in the promo. So yeah, like Rob's real life brother is gonna be play his estranged brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Like I've seen pictures and like and like like obviously this is like I like that. Like I like when family actually plays family.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
it makes a lot of sense and it's just like it's interesting to see. And I'm excited for it either way. Like I'm excited to learn more about him, to see what the heck is gonna happen.
Right.
To, see like Judd's part in it.
Yeah.
Because like I know it said like the synopsis said something like Wyatt's acting out, so Judd brings him to the family ranch. And this is something I had thought in my head this whole season. Man, like since it was mentioned in episode 6, like man, I really hope we see that. Like maybe not this season, but like I hope we see it eventually.
Wyatt and meeting Stuart.
I'm kind of curious if like they're gonna be like, oh, they've already met, or if they're gonna be like, oh, this is their first meeting. I'm really curious about that because we haven't seen Stuart since Saving Grace, which obviously was 209. So it's been a while.
Damn, over a season now.
Yeah, he's only appeared in like before this next episode. He's only ever been in 2 episodes. He was literally in. I think he was in that episode in season 1. I think it was episode 9, and then he was in 9 the next year. And this is 16.
No, I just want to see him with Charlie. Since
I
he
do
went to the
too.
grandbaby so
I
much.
do too. Yes, that's right.
I wish they would have shown him meeting her for the first time, because that's like mostly what I wanted to see. But obviously, like that was not
him
a
holding
normal
a baby
experience.
Charlie. That's true. But they still could have shown him holding infant. Charlie is
I agree.
a little bit of an older baby at this point. So it'll still be adorable as heck.
Yeah,
Right.
when we got hold of the whole walking Charlie thing, I was like, how old is she?
Well, I was thinking about
Yeah,
that
how old
too,
is she?
because
I thought she was 6 months old, but obviously
so between the time TK and Carlos were drugged to the next episode was 90 days.
although a lot of people have been saying on Discord that it might have not been 90 days, that it might have just been a week. So I'm honestly confused about the timeline.
Yeah.
I'm like, I could see it either way, but like it has been brought up a lot that like it probably wasn't 90 days. It was just there's so much confusion, but I'm excited either way, so that's all
Right.
that matters.
I think when Grace and I have been working on our fan fiction, I think that's the hard part because we're always asking, when did that happen? How many days between that and that happened?
And so many times we've just had to make it up.
Yeah, we're just like, oh, we'll just wing it.
But that's always what I do because I never understand the timeline. And honestly, this season, a lot of the timeline doesn't make any sense. Like some of it does, but some of it you just can't make out to be like what it should be, or you don't understand how long things have been. And I'm just like, huh? What? Thank you guys so much for joining us and listening. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We're also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and anywhere you get your podcasts. on iTunes and Spotify, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. You guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 91LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can also check out our Discord server and join us on there. The link is in the description of this podcast and also in our Instagram bio. You guys can follow me, Katie, at Love Tarlos on Instagram and at For Love of Tarlos on Twitter.
You guys can follow me, Grace, at RunningLaughlin911 on Instagram and at ChipGirl31 on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302 on Instagram and Twitter. Bye.
Bye.